Let's go, let's go, let's go. Alright, people wanna hate every day, it's okay.
All right, welcome back, Reckless Success. Tonight we got my beautiful wife Ellie on again.
Hello.
And we're going to talk a little bit of crazy stories and a little bit of business. So we'll start off. Well, actually, how was your week this week, baby? Did you have a good week?
It was good. It's all a blur.
It goes by so fast. We're so busy.
Yeah, I couldn't even tell you what I did. I did a lot today, and I was at our bank, and I was with our attorney.
We're getting prepared to go
I'm busy.
to Legoland soon.
Yeah, so that adds, so like when we do things like trips, that means that I 100%, which, and I'm not complaining, but I 100% plan, organize the whole trip, pack up everyone. I get all the plans. So I was actually happy. My family let me read off my typed up itinerary last night at dinner, and they actually acted interested and not annoyed that I had our days planned and I knew where our dinner reservations were and what parks we were going to on which day and our flight information. And that gives me peace of mind. And usually they all want to wing it, but I just knew that wasn't a good plan for this trip. And
when we go on trips, there's not a minute wasted without getting the best of that area squeezed in.
I can't help it.
We're talking about going on a mile-long go-kart track.
Yeah.
Legoland, Peppa Pig.
We've got a pool day, a water park day,
Yes.
different dinner reservations. But I just think, I don't know, I do like to relax. That's a lie. I would like to go on a vacation and relax, like by the beach and read a book.
Right, but we
I
got kids.
would, and lay in a hammock, right? But we have kids, so we don't take a lot of vacations because we prioritize work for sure, and don't want to not be at work, and we've got projects that have to get done. So I want to go on trips with our kids if they're like real vacations. And like we'll take weekend trips alone,
Right.
But if we were to go like lay on a beach in Mexico, someday I want to do that and I would relax. But as for now, those kids want to come on vacation. They're going to be hustling from the time we get up till the time we go to bed.
We're going to squeeze in every park that Florida has to offer.
Yeah. But I am excited for Legoland. It looks really fun. And I think it's a lot less stressful than Disney World and stuff.
Right.
And I think both our kids will like it. I think we'll like it too. I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm down with some Legos.
But yeah, that's why my week's been extra crazy because my head's over here planning the trip and trying to get all this business stuff done.
And besides that, spring has sprung in Southern Illinois, so we have been getting calls like crazy for work. So on top of having big projects going, we've had a lot of other big projects going, so we're just working long hours.
Yeah.
It's that time of the year, so we're back to really putting in some hours.
I think we both do our best work when we're busy like that, though.
Yeah.
Like I have been thriving all day when I had not a spare minute.
Right.
Like I didn't have a moment, to get on TikTok or Facebook, and just like screw around. Like I had to stay on top of my stuff, and I got so much done. Like I'm good under a time crunch, and I think you are too. Like we put out our best work when we have a lot going on.
I put out my best work when I have an audience.
Oh yeah, not me.
I like whenever I got like 5 or 6 people watching. I always work really.
You think?
Yeah.
That's funny.
I
We
can't
need to get
hold the
little
pace.
fake stands, like you see like cardboard cutout stand
Right.
people in the stands watching all your jobs.
It's a good idea.
Put them,
But
stake
the
them
problem
up.
is I can't hold the pace. Usually they can only watch for so long because they're like, damn, that dude's going so hard. But I can only hold that pace. So usually right whenever they turn their back and walk off, I'm like,
You breathe. Whew.
I slow down. Yeah.
That's
But I wanted to tell you tonight a story about this guy named Lucas, not to be mistaked with real life Luke, but this is a different Lucas that I met one time. So what we would do, we were in Illinois, and I had heard about federal laws and stuff, so I knew I wanted to stay in Illinois to do illegal things. So we would go up to Chicago, and by we, I mean other people, not me, and get Sudafed. That's how they would use it to make meth. So there would usually be like a truck driver or something that would bring them back, and then 2 guys from here would go up there. And then I had 2 guys that lived up there. Well, I had one guy that lived up there and his cousin that I knew from down here.
Okay.
And we would meet them, and they knew the area because my guys didn't know the area. So, and they would go around to all the Walgreens, CVS, and buy Sudafed. This is before you'd have to
Before the
sign
law.
for them. Yeah, they were everywhere. You
That's
just had to buy them
nuts.
or steal them. However they would get them, they would get them.
So would buy like would they go in and buy what 5 or 10 boxes at a time, or like were they ever questioned?
I think it was a 3-box limit.
But you didn't have to
Before
show
you had
ID
to sign.
and all
No
that.
ID. Yeah, no
Okay.
ID, no signing, but you could buy 3 boxes at a time. And these guys did not care to go in there and buy 3 boxes,
At
2
every
of them,
store.
and stand in line because there would always be 2
Oh wow.
per car.
Like what a
And
red
they'd
flag,
stand-
but they
yeah.
didn't care.
They'd stand right next to each other in line and get, 6 boxes at the time.
Oh my.
So then we had a truck driver that had routes from Chicago back
Like
to
a
here.
real truck, like a semi truck driver.
Yeah.
Oh my
And
gosh.
because we didn't want to bring them back, like even though we had nice cars, we didn't look very good, so there was a good risk that we'd get pulled over. I mean,
Yeah.
more than likely we were high the whole time. So we had a truck driver that was also on meth, and we would give it to him, and he would bring it back.
A big operation.
It was. I got another story about that too from a guy at the dollar store. But so I'm up there one time and I meet this cousin. It's the first time I meet the cousin named Lucas. And he seems really cool. We hit it off. But the problem is we were all meth heads and they were all heroin addicts. They didn't know nothing
From
about
Chicago,
meth.
they were.
Yeah. We were in
Oh.
the heart of Chicago and they were all into heroin. We were into meth. They were buying
funny.
the pills so that we'd give them cash to go buy heroin.
Wow.
So right off the bat, I meet Lucas. He's like, we need to go to Cicero. I think that's how you pronounce
You've
it.
talked about that place before.
Yeah, it's where we used to get
You went
weed.
there with the weed.
Yeah.
What is that town?
It's like
is
the
it a suburb of Chicago?
Yeah.
That's funny.
So
what happened in place?
we went to Cicero, and this dude gets out, and he goes up on a stoop, and he comes back. I give him $60. I didn't know. He's like, I just got to have some to get me through these couple days. I'm like, all right. So I give him $60, and he runs up on a stoop, comes back, and he's got these little full packs. I know nothing about heroin. I've never done it, never seen it, saw it. And he comes back, and he's got these packs, and he is happy as hell. So, like, for 2 days, we're hanging out, and he's doing his heroin.
So you're hanging out in Chicago, or you brought him back?
I'm
with
hanging out
you?
in Chicago.
Oh, okay.
And he's doing his heroin, but he, like, snorted it. It wasn't much different than what I was, doing with
I
the
didn't know
meth.
you could do that. I thought you had to use
Shoot
a needle.
it.
Yeah.
No, he was snorting it, or
That's
might have been
crazy.
smoking it. I actually had my buddy Dirty Shane with me, and he done something. I told my guys on the way up there, nobody do no fucking heroin because we don't know nothing about it.
Yeah.
You'll pass out and die. So sure enough, one of my guys done the heroin, and I found him out wandering by the interstate, and he was like puking everywhere. It was horrible. So anyway, so I'm talking to this Lucas. He seems cool. He's holding it together. And I'm like, hey, man, I'm going to go down to Southern Illinois, and I'll be back in like 2 weeks. Why don't you come with me? I mean, this guy had nothing going on, He's like, yeah, as long as you stop and buy me like so many packs of heroin, I'll go with you.
So he was like a functioning addict, like he wasn't getting all messed up.
Yeah.
Per se,
Oh,
like-
no. We were sitting, so I had never been around heroin addicts.
I mean,
We're sitting at their apartment, and I'm on meth. So I'm all jacked up, right? And everybody around me on heroin is holding a cigarette that's got an ash like this long. And they got their eyes closed.
what?
Yeah, it was so strange. And they would be
Ugh.
nodding, and they'd get all the way down to the table, and then they'd shoot back up.
That's eerie.
And I'm just sitting there, and everybody,
You're wide awake
dude,
watching him.
I'd ask them questions. I'm like, hey, are we going to do something tonight? Yeah. I'm like, are you awake or are you asleep? I don't know what the fuck's
That
going on
is
here.
so strange. I've
Yeah.
never seen someone messed up on
We
heroin.
had the cops come for a fight while we're hanging out
What?
with them. So we bring Lucas back. I'm like, come back with me. All right. Now I'm methed out, so my time frame is horrible. I might think a day is a day and it's 2 weeks. So I get back. I'm like, it's going to take me a short time to go make this, and then I'll get back with you. I was going to sell it, and we'd have fun running around, and I'd take him back. So I take him. I lived at my parents in the basement.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
You
I
took him
take
to your parents' house?
I took this guy to my parents'
Oh
house.
my gosh.
And you know how the basement was like finished with the bathroom across the little living room
Yeah.
area? I take him to my bedroom, and I'm like, all right, bro, you wait here, and I'll be back in like 10 hours right? It ain't gonna take me long. He's like, all right. And I'm like, don't move, because like my stepdad's here. You
But your
just
parents
stay
don't know
here.
you're bringing some guy from Chicago.
They have
in your
no
bedroom
clue
for a sleepover.
that there's some random heroin addict from Chicago
Yeah.
staying in their
Oh my
basement while they're there.
gosh.
So sorry, Mom. So I leave and I'm gone, and I guess I'm gone. I run into some hiccups. So I'm gone for like 2, coming up on 3 days. I've been gone for a minute.
And he's just at your parents' house. in the
He's at
basement.
my parents in the
That's
basement.
insane.
And when I come back, I come in and he's like, dude, I got to use the bathroom. And he'd been pissing in bottles, but he had to shit. And I'm
For
like,
days?
for
He'd just been
days.
peeing in
I'm
bottles
like,
in your bedroom?
yes. I'm like, why don't you go to the bathroom across the hall? And he's like, you said not to come out. And I was like, oh, my bad, dude. Yeah, you could have went to the bathroom.
You're lucky you didn't take a poop on your floor, dude, or in
Right,
your bed and leave.
right.
Like, this
No
guy left me
shit.
here stranded.
So I get the guy. I've got the drugs. Finally, I think it was during one of these times where I was like having a hard time and getting chased by the cops. That's why it took me so long. So finally, after a few days, I'm like, all right, it's party time. I got a big sack of drugs. Let's go. And we're going around. We're selling it to all my local buyers, you know. And while I'm at this person's house, the cops come. We're over in Carbondale, right off Old 13, right where it meets Giant City, these apartments on the east right there, on the south side
I know what you're talking
of Old 13. We're in there, and it was woods behind it. And the cops come. And I got this
Why
heroin.
did they come?
Somebody in the apartment, I don't know, had a scene or whatever, and they came. But we were all, I mean, I had a shit ton of meth with me, so I wasn't sticking around. And I'm like, come on, Lucas. And we take off running, and I forget, like, Lucas doesn't know where he's at. And I take off running out in the woods, and we get split up. And he's gone, and I wait like an hour. The cops come, the cops leave. And I'm like, all right. So I start making my way back out, and I finally come out, and there's no Lucas. And like 2 hours goes by.
Oh, no.
I'm yelling for the fucking guy. I'm like, Lucas, come, you know, I'm walking in this woods yelling for him. Finally, like 3 hours, he comes fucking walking back out.
Oh, my God.
And I'm like, man, what the hell? And he's like, dude, I was running. I stashed my heroin by a tree. And he's like, and I can't find it.
Oh.
He's like, I've been out there searching for it everywhere.
For hours. Desperate.
And I'm like, it's no big deal, you know? We'll try to look for some. I didn't think about being in Southern Illinois and there being
It wasn't
zero
really
heroin.
a big thing here, at least back then.
So within like 1 hour, this dude, well, just pretty much from then on, this dude's freaking out. He's having withdrawals. He's like sick. He's saying he ain't going to make it. Take him to the hospital.
I watched a show with this girl who's a heroin addict, or I watched it, and it was crazy when she withdrew. Like, she was pooping her pants, like massive diarrhea. The worst symptoms I couldn't imagine, like puking all over herself, passing out randomly because she was like sweating to death. Right. Like, it was bad. And I guess that's why people become so addictive. Right. Because it's like you're not just struggling not to use, your whole body's like falling apart. Right. So I can't imagine being around someone like that in real life.
Dude, so I had a sack of meth. In my
God.
mind, I couldn't figure out why this dude wouldn't be tickled shitless. I got a sack of drugs, and he's freaking out. So I'm like, don't worry. I know some people with some Oxycontins. So
that like does the same thing.
It's like, in my mind, that's the same as heroin. No way. I went and got him some 80s. He didn't want the shit. He wanted to get back to Chicago as fast as possible. So I hadn't even, this is like the first night we had went out. So I brought the dude back. He stayed in my parents' basement for like 3 days. I take him out and he falls apart. He wants
me get to show him around.
He wants me to take him straight back to Chicago. I'm like, I'm not going right back. And so I took him to the train station and dropped him off. And the train wasn't leaving for like 6 hours. And I was like, just hang out with me and I'll bring you back in 5 hours. And he wouldn't do it. He's like, I'm done, dude. He went and sat by the fucking, he was sick. He was over it. And it's funny because that was the last time I ever seen Lucas. Like, people.
Seriously, that was the end of it? Like,
well,
you just dropped him
until recently.
Oh.
But for 20 years, I dropped him off at the train station. I never saw him again. And he was always in my mind just because I thought, you know, you go through life and you meet people and you might have like this crazy experience with them and then you don't see them and you're like, that was
gone.
like,
strange.
Are they still alive?
Yeah.
So recently, like last 5 years, I was on Facebook, and I didn't even know the dude's last name.
Oh my
And he
gosh.
popped up in my friends you may know, and
Shut
I
up.
saw him, and I'm like, that's that dude.
I wonder if
And
he
I
ever
messaged
came.
him, and he actually was living here from
Oh.
Chicago with some girl. I think I remember telling you
You
about
probably
it.
did. I just don't
And
remember.
we caught up, but I think he was still possibly on the same path. Hopefully by now he's straightened out.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
That's
though.
been a few years ago. But so that was crazy. I got my buddy back. My buddy was out stumbling around in the interstate.
Yeah, your stories are so bizarre and weird because like everyone has crazy stories from their childhood and their youth and like
Right.
partying and stuff, but you were doing such things beyond like orchestrating a interstate drug Sudafed run and picking
Right.
up heroin addicts and losing friends in Chicago that are trying heroin randomly. Whenever we had our youngest son, Lucas was one of the names I wanted to name him because I like the name. And Jesse was like, I know two guys named Lucas, and I don't want to think about either of them when I look at our son. So that name
Sorry,
was off.
real life Luke.
And then we met real life Luke, our producer, and I was like,
Yeah.
see, it's such a good name. But it was just funny because he's like, I know two guys, and we're not going to name our son after them.
Sorry, Lucas.
That was name was
The two Lucases I know.
But yeah, that's just bizarre. That's just, and you were still probably, how old were you then? Like, I never know. I can't gauge. Were you 17 or were you like 19?
No, we were probably I was probably 19 to 20.
I met you when you were 19. So you couldn't
So
have
this
been,
is-
it had to be before then.
It was before that, yeah.
So you were like 18.
18.
That's so nuts.
Another time we took, I don't want to say where we went because it might not have been this state, might have been this state. But we're in the city, same thing. That was the scenario. We had guys, their jobs were to typically go buy the pills, or some of them stole the pills. We would pay them the same price if they paid for them or they stole
Just
them.
if they showed up with the boxes.
But these dudes would go in and just, because they were on the shelf, like hundreds.
Oh,
And-
because they weren't even behind a pharmacy counter back
Yeah,
then.
they were just out on
You
the
could just
shelves.
go get like some ibuprofen.
You could go load up a whole backpack full of them in the
That
medicine
is
aisle
so
and run out
wild.
with it.
I wonder how many years it took them to figure out that that was the thing and that they needed to put restrictions on it. You know, like
It took them from about, yeah, I mean, it was pretty wild. It happened in 2007, I think, is when they put restrictions.
and meth had already been around here for years.
I mean, it'd been
right?
going hard for, yeah.
That's interesting.
I guess it was hard to get the restrictions put on.
Yeah, that makes sense. But anyway, so you
But-
did this. You had guys that would go to different places wherever they chose
Yeah.
and,
And,
scour for
One
pills.
guy that we're trying to get to come on, he hasn't agreed yet, but him and another guy that we know were in this city, and one went in to steal the pills, and when he was in there and he was loading up, they saw him and they locked the doors, and it was like the bulletproof doors.
No way.
Oh yeah. And he took off running and he ran into the door and it was locked, and he's like beating on it, and the real tall dude that we talk about,
Yeah.
he's in the car waiting, and he's like, sees him, he's in his Monte Carlo, and he sees what's going on. He's like, shit, and he has to leave him because they got him. He's locked in, and he knows the cops are coming. But as he's pulling out, they got him. They had like 10,000 Sudafed with him. They got arrested.
What? Both of them?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
my god.
they both went to jail for
Like,
4 months at that time.
what? Just because
In,
like
in that city down in
That's
Yeah, down in
crazy.
Nashville, pretty much.
what's crazy about that story is the two people that Jesse's talking about, one of them changed their life and is a father and a family man and has a career, and it was always, I think, a nice person, but it was just on the wrong path.
Mhm.
And the other guy in that scenario, and this was 20 plus years ago, right? 20 years
Yeah.
ago, literally just got arrested again like 3 weeks ago for running from the cops on a four-wheeler, on a stolen four-wheeler, like all these charges. And it's just so sad. I mean, that's really about choices. Both of them went to prison. Both
Yeah.
of them came home to the same area.
But let's not forget, one went to prison for meth. One went to prison because he's a stone cold killer
Right. Over meth, though.
over meth. Yeah.
So the guy, what Jesse means by that, I feel like we have to explain that. This guy, the killer, got in a fight? Was it over Sudafed?
It was over. So we all were methed out. So one guy that was from here, Hurst, they sold another guy, and
Let's call the guy we're talking about Jimmy, so it's
Jimmy.
less confusing.
Yeah.
Jimmy's the one that
our
got in
buddy
trouble.
Jimmy sells another guy a fire extinguisher that was supposed to be full of anhydrous, but it wasn't.
Oh.
So the guy brought the thing back, the fire extinguisher, and they got in a fight. Jimmy grabs the fire extinguisher and beats the dude over the head with it.
And he killed him.
And killed him. He'd only done like 10 years. Right? Maybe 15?
I think 10.
It was like 10 or 15.
I think that's one of those things, though, because he could have said, it's just like, I think you had talked about in the last episode, like, about not wanting to fight. And even when you used to fight when you're younger, always worrying because it's easy to kill somebody and hit him wrong
That's
in the
two
head.
friends we've got that done that.
It was the other one. Oh, yeah.
Got in a bar fight,
but like,
killed a guy.
Jimmy probably, and maybe this is true, could have said, I didn't mean to kill this guy. Like, he ripped me off, and I meant to hit him over the head with this because we were fighting, and that killed him. Like, I don't even know. You know what I'm saying? So that's scary. Like, but I guess, so technically he went to prison for that.
I think it was for
but
manslaughter.
he was an
probably.
addict.
Yeah.
And so he came home 10 years later. You think you'd get sober and
So one changed his life. One, his
still
thing,
struggling.
he's still struggling. I don't know. He's tried both paths. He likes the struggle path. Some people just like that.
That's true.
Somebody, I heard it today on the Joe Rogan podcast, was saying that when they tried meth for the first time, then they realized that everything else just wasn't fun for them. That like meth put so much joy into everything they were doing.
Really?
Yeah.
And I think that goes to like Jesse and I have talked about just together in conversation about like different levels of addiction because all of our brains are different.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I think part of it, why some people can quit without rehab or counseling, like they can, it's not that it's easy, but they can work through it. And some people have to go away to a rehab. Some people can just have some counseling. Some people have to go to prison to get clean. Some people, I mean, there's so many different levels of how addicted you are. Some people never, ever, ever get sober. They can lose everything, their children, their spouse, their home, they don't care. Like they will always choose the drug. And I think that's sad because I think it just has to do with our chemical makeup, you know, and that everybody's got, it's just different for each person. That's why it's so dangerous to try drugs at all because you don't know how addicted you might be.
And I don't want to be mistaken. Of course, so the person I heard on Joe Rogan, they were saying it made everything so joyous. That is the point of the drug.
Yeah.
So, of course, after you do it a few times, you're going to think it's great because you feel all these different effects that make your body have more dopamine and just feel happy. That wears off really quick. So then you become addicted. I think we've talked about this plenty of times. But you become addictive and then you're stuck in this rut. So just because, and don't think, oh, well, I can just do it a couple times because those couple times and you feel so great, you're going to push it until you're doing it every weekend.
Addicted.
And yeah. And
I think you and Philip talked about that, how quickly it turned into like being pathetic and your whole day revolved around finding more, using more, finding more, using more. And like, it wasn't, you didn't have real friendships. You didn't have relationships with your family. You didn't have job. I mean, your whole life is now that, and it wasn't even fun anymore. It was just desperation.
Yeah. There was no going fishing or hanging out and
like you
working
hide
on
from
a
people
car.
because you're not going to be around people because you're all messed up. And that's the sad part of it.
Right. You're not going and shooting the shit with grandpa.
Yeah.
Yep. But anyways, so that was my story about Lucas. He's a real one. He's still, I've got him on my Facebook and he's still the same real old G he was 20 something years ago. Like he's doing the same lifestyle, I think. I mean, he's working a little bit, but he's still Lucas.
Chilling.
I won't say his last name, but he'll know who it is. All right, since I mentioned my buddy Dirty Shane, I think we should elaborate on him.
Yeah.
Throughout my life, I've always had people there, like if I get bored, probably because my parents didn't play with me, so I just found like the neighbor kid.
Yeah.
Like, and I was always the poor neighbor kid, I always found those because they were more apt to do my chores.
Oh, God.
For a little bit of money. So my buddy Dirty Shane lived down the road, and he lived with his grandma, and he was poor, and he was just always dirty, you know?
That's
so I called him
sad.
Dirty Shane. Well, he had a fucking shower. He could have showered.
That's true.
He was just dirty. And so I called him Dirty Shane. And Dirty Shane, like,
We were like legit friends though, I think, for several years.
yeah, for several years, he would hang out all the time.
Yeah.
And I would call him Dirty Shane. Like, that's his nickname whenever he was around. So we had a lot of fun. We had the wheelchair Olympics.
I didn't.
We set up an Olympic course, and
You
we
and
were
Dirty Shane.
yeah. We would ride wheelies in a wheelchair, and then we like set boards up that was
Whose
like
wheelchair?
stairs. I don't know, so I found one somewhere. And we'd climb boards like a stair and then drop off and do all these tricks because we could wheelie in the wheelchair pretty good.
That's funny.
But my mom would be, or my stepdad, like my punishment when I got caught when I was 15 was to push mow their yard, which was a couple acres. So they didn't say I had to push mow the yard. They said the yard had to be push mowed.
Oh my God.
And it's what's so strange about this is I feel like they knew the process. Like, it wasn't just me. It wasn't them saying, you got to mow the fucking yard, and then me having Dirty Shane do it. They would be like, for that,
This yard,
the
better
yard
be
needs to be
mowed.
mowed. Okay. So I'd call up Dirty Shane. Dirty Shane, $10. Come mow, push. You got to push mow it because I need little bitty stripes. You can't mow it with the rider.
Oh my God.
You got to do the little wheel. So Dirty Shane would come over, $10-15. Or usually I would go buy a bag of weed and I would just smoke a bowl or two with him. He'd push mow the whole fucking 2
Because he's
acres.
just hanging around at his grandma's. He's
Just
not
happy
doing
to hang
anything.
out. And I took Dirty Shane a lot of places. Dirty Shane was actually the one out in the interstate puking up in Chicago.
What would your parents say though when you were letting people do your chores or having them do your chores?
That's what's strange. They wouldn't say nothing. Like, they would come home.
Stop.
Like, I'd have to clean the barn, and I would have Dirty Shane do it. And then my stepdad would come home and be like, that shit over there needs picked up too. And I'd be like, all right. And then I'd be like, Shane, pick that shit up too. Like, it was just so strange.
Can you imagine though coming home and like if one of our kids was punishment was like do this chore and they had their friend here, you would freak out. You would be
Right.
like, hell
I don't
no.
know. They would use him too, though. That's what's so
Oh, they're like,
funny.
hey, when you're done with that, come
Yeah.
on and clean out the car.
Yeah, like after they figured out what the gig was, like they'd be like, hey, you think Shane would, crawl up in the attic and run this or something? I'm like, yeah, Dirty Shane, get up there. And what was funny about it was eventually, and this part wasn't funny, but his grandma passed away.
Oh,
Dirty Shane gets the house that he
No
lived in with his
way.
grandma. Yeah. Or I don't know, his grandma passed away and Dirty Shane stayed living there.
oh, she probably did leave it to him.
No.
She probably raised him.
No, he didn't make it very long.
Oh,
Long enough for the bank to evict him.
sad.
But he would like burn copper and then take it in the house and he'd fill up the bathtub with water and then he would dip the copper he burned outside in the bathtub water to get the plastic off because like
Oh,
it
to
goes from
scrap
hot
it?
to scrap it. And then his bathtub would be like all black. I'm like, or I'd go in there and the bathtub would be full of copper wire. I'm like, how the fuck you showering? He would like stand on top of it all. He'd claim, but he was
No.
dirty. I don't think he ever would shower. But the strangest fucking thing happened one day, and Dirty Shane was never getting no pussy. You know what I mean? Because he was Dirty Shane. I mean, I'm just
Oh, 'cause he
saying,
was
like
dirty?
he was too fucking dirty, or I don't know. Maybe he did, and I didn't know about it. Maybe there's some dirty girls down at the trailer park he was going and hitting, but none of the girls I hung out with. So one day, my friend Sarah, remember Sarah and Blakely?
Mm-hmm.
Sarah shows up with a friend named Megan, and Megan was cute. And Megan had a car. And I'm like, damn, Megan's single from another town. And all of a sudden, Megan will go walking over to Dirty Shane and starts like talking to him and shit and took a liking to Dirty Shane. And I'm like, what the fuck just happened?
That's funny.
You know, I didn't think that was happening. And so Megan and Shane actually like lived together. I would see him going down the road pulling a wagon with like scrap. And this
No
is like a
way.
good looking girl, Shane, which I guess if in retrospect, he wasn't a bad looking guy. He was just a dirty and poor.
Yeah.
And so I called her Dirty Megan. So it was Dirty
Aw,
Shane
you're
and
such a
Dirty
bully.
Megan.
I bet
Yeah,
she
I would
loved
see
you.
him and I'd be like, Dirty Shane, Dirty Megan, what's up?
Aw.
But they did love me. They would always smile when they'd see me. And
They
be
stayed
like,
together for a long time.
yeah. I don't know whatever happened to him.
Him?
Yeah.
You're right. When's the last time you've heard of him?
Before I went away.
No kidding.
Well, before I went away.
That's weird. What if he's on the internet?
He's
social
in,
media?
he was on my Facebook. He was in like Colorado. I didn't
Oh.
think he would. Well, actually, he didn't ever give a shit. I called him Dirty Shane. He always liked it. Anyways, he was a good buddy at that time. But yeah, I haven't seen him in 20 years. But he would come over, do my chores. He got me through so much stuff. And like I said, my parents, they would utilize Shane, have him do their chores.
Where else did you take him? You said you took him to a lot of places?
Yeah.
Just on drug runs?
No, I'd take him on little water park trips and shit too.
What?
When I first met him. Yeah.
Water park?
Before I was like too far gone. I remember going to, what is it, like Santa Claus or something?
You took him to Holiday
When I was
World.
like 16 or 15, yeah. Like, I'd known him
You
for
are
a
the
while.
funniest person I know. Like,
Yeah.
you took some dirty guy you called Dirty Shane to Holiday World as a teenager.
I had to give this motherfucker a bath somehow, so I had to take him to the water park.
Oh my god!
to
Like,
get
did you
him
have
clean.
some trunks? You probably got him some trunks.
I can't remember.
That's
But
just you
yeah.
and him went to the Holiday World.
No, my mom took us.
Did she really?
No, you know what? His grandma took us. I remember, yeah. And she was like a true grandma too.
Stop
yeah,
it.
she was kind of. I don't know. She was an ornery old woman. She didn't really like to cut up or anything. I remember driving there in her car.
hilarious.
Yeah, trying to make small talk and it wasn't working.
Did she go in with you and like hang out, or she just drove you guys there and waited in the car?
I don't know where she went. She
What a
waited.
strange scenario.
Me and Dirty Shane.
That's a
went
good, 2.5 hour drive from where we live
in. Yeah.
in Santa Claus, Indiana. Funny.
Yep. I remember hanging out there with him one day. But we go other places. You put me on the spot and I can't think of what all we did. We did hang out a
Sorry.
lot.
You said you took him a lot of places. I was curious as to where.
Right. Well, I can't remember, Shane. Sorry. Doesn't seem that relevant. But I do need to catch up with him probably.
Yeah, for sure.
I wonder what he's doing. Like, he did not want a job or anything.
He was content just
He was
being
just
broke
content
and hanging
scrapping.
around. Yeah.
Yeah, he was just one of those guys. He probably made as much money scrapping.
Where would he get the stuff to scrap? Was he stealing it from places or like
Abandoned houses. I don't
Stuff on
know.
the side of
Just
the
shit on
road.
the side of the road.
There's some people that do that for, I don't know if it's for a living, but I kind of think so, where they'll literally come pick up anything in your house. Like, they've come and gotten a fridge from us, a hot water heater. Like, these people and they're nice people, but if you put it out on Facebook that you've got
Right.
an old oven, anything, a dryer, they'll come pick it all up
Oh, yeah.
and they scrap it all.
Yeah, if you have anything metal. throw it
Yeah,
out there.
which is kind of, I don't know how much you get for that kind of stuff, but if you get a bunch of free stuff, other people's stuff, and you haul it
I
in.
just had a thought.
What?
So, maybe I shouldn't say this. We don't recycle, but maybe we
We
should.
probably should for sure.
But I didn't even know it was that big of a thing in this rural area until we talked to your parents about it.
Mhm.
And they informed us about all these places,
They
these centers.
recycle, and they know
I had
all
no
the
clue,
info.
honestly.
I knew there was recycling places, but I have so much on my plate, and this isn't a good excuse, but that recycling's so far removed from like my
Right.
priority list. But it wouldn't be hard to put bins in our garage and put all the boxes in one and all the plastic
I'll
bottles
throw
in
that
another.
shit in a 55-gallon barrel and light it on fire.
No, we don't.
I will.
No, we don't. But we could easily recycle. But then I know I would have to take it all. I'd have to get out and do all. That's why I'm
No,
like,
your dad said actually you don't even have to get out. You just pull up and honk.
at one place, I think at the one down the road, you have to get out and help sort, right? I don't know. I'll look into it.
The point of the story is I wonder if you could have, like, you know how you put on Facebook, fridge out by the road? I
Mhm.
wonder if you could put, like, cardboard boxes out by the road and then recyclers would
No,
come
because they
get
don't
that
get money
shit.
for it. They don't. They're not
Oh,
gonna
it's
come
got,
and take it.
I see.
You're not getting money
Oh, okay.
for the cardboard. You're just doing good by the environment.
Right.
Yeah.
Touche.
But in bigger cities and stuff, like up in Chicago, where my grandma lived, they had like the trash service did the recycling too. So you'd have your 2 recycling bins and your trash,
Right.
and they make it easy. You put it all by the curb. They take it all.
Our guy comes at 10 o'clock at night. He ain't
It's
sorting
for our
shit.
dumpster.
It is so crazy.
We're always like, and we always forget, even though it's the same day every week, because it's so late. Like I'm definitely getting in bed before 10,
Right.
and Jesse's probably on the couch thinking about going to bed. And it's like this huge sound of this big,
comes barreling down
truck.
our driveway like
and
10
he's always
o'clock
like,
at
Lesa,
night.
like, who is that? Or I'm like, instead of him being like, who the heck's pulling in all hot and heavy and it's loud this late? And it's the dang trash truck. But he
Like-
comes. They're a good service. It's just for like the last person on his route.
He comes, but he goes faster and fuck.
Oh, yeah. He's flying up our driveway.
I wanted to go out and yell at him, but I also think it's late.
And we're like his last
and
stop.
maybe
Instead of
he's
cutting
tired.
us off the route,
Yeah,
he's
but he
making
could
it.
slow it down a little bit. He flies. But then he flies in. He goes behind our shop, hooks up to the dumpster, empties it, and then he sits there for like 25 minutes. 10 minutes at least.
I don't ever notice that.
I went out there one time and he was just out of his truck, pissing, looking up at the stars. And I was like,
it is
okay,
a nice view of the stars.
it is, but I don't know what he does back there, but he does hang out for a long time. So if you're listening to this, I'm on to you. And I'm going to be watching that camera and see what the hell it is you're doing back there. What if I fucking put a camera up and catch the fucking dumpster guy back there jacking off every 10 o'clock at night, think he's by himself?
I can't, like, turn the camera towards the dumpster directly.
Dude, I will have free trash service for the rest of my life. I will blackmail the fuck out of him. I might fucking do some fake AI shit just 10 o'clock at night with his trash truck just to blackmail him anyways.
No, we're not going to do that. That's not how we operate.
I know. Unless I do catch him.
Yeah.
Then I'm getting free service. All right. So on the business side of things, though, earlier we were talking about self-improvement and staying consistent with growing and just not getting stagnant, basically. So, like, try to always have goals for yourself. And even if you don't write them down, but try to reach a goal, but don't just stay at that goal. And this isn't for everybody, but if that's what you're looking for, it's fun to keep making goals and keep moving forward. And that same goes with learning. You know, your goal might be to make more money, but you need to learn your trade or whatever it is that you're making money with.
Like, industries are always developing and changing. Like, Wes even said that, his episode won't be out till next week, though, about his tinting business, that he is great at it and knows that, but thought, what the heck, I'm going to take this class. Maybe there's some new stuff in my industry I don't know about. And there was. And he's like, oh, shoot, I'm glad I did this. I learned some new tricks I didn't know about. Yeah. And I think that's in any field, professionally and personally. Like, I think sometimes we feel so, like, proud of and like who we are, and we think like we just know it all, or I don't know. People just don't want to accept that maybe we need to grow and make changes, like in our personality and the way that we react to people and the way we talk to people and the way we think about things. Like, and so I think it's good to remember that and, like, sometimes take a moment to, even though we're all busy, and, like, sit in your own brain and your thoughts, right, and maybe write down your goals and listen to, if you're married or have a partner, like, listen to the criticism they have about you and work on those things. Like, we do that. Like, sometimes we are not being our best version of ourselves, and we could improve on how we react to things or talk to each other or show each other love, you know, and stuff like that. Like, you can do that even in just friendships or business relationships. Like, don't be stuck in your ways and think that you know it all or that your way's right, because a lot of times we aren't reacting well, or I don't know, just there's always a room for improvement in our lives.
Every time we go to a city, I notice all this stuff that we'd never experienced before. And it makes me remember how small my mindset is here. Mm-hmm. So don't get on, like, autopilot or cruise control. Or if you do, go to a city. Like, if you live in the Midwest, go down south. And
like,
you'll
for
see.
Inspiration? Yes,
for inspiration. Every time we'd go to the city, and that was kind of my way in prison. Like, I went somewhere else and I realized there's so much more than this small town bullshit that I was doing. So I was doing all this small town drug dealing. It meant nothing on the grand scale. I hadn't been outside of the small town very much. Like, I had, but not really.
Yeah.
So anytime you go to the city, I get that inspiration. But it goes with anywhere you're at. You don't want to get stuck in a rut or just not be growing and improving, because just constantly growing and improve. That goes with what I was saying about the goals.
Yeah, and I think that's what I kind of mean. Like, I think people, you get stuck kind of in a rut and you miss opportunities in your life because you're not willing to, like, keep learning or to, like, improve yourself or read a book. Like, I've been trying to read this book for a year, and I only get through maybe 2 pages a week, if that, because I'm so busy. But in the morning,
Carrie right now is probably flipping over in her bed, like,
our friend,
2 pages a week.
Our friend Carrie probably read the book 3 books a week.
Yeah,
which I wish I did that. I do, and I admire her for doing that. I think she has audiobooks too, though, but because she's a really busy lady, busier than me probably, honestly. But even though I'm only getting through a couple of pages a week, at least like it's a book about business and mindset. So at least I know I'm growing myself in some way, like the only time I can do it is if I work, which I always have to work out in the morning. So I have to get up by 5 if I want to read a couple pages of my book before I take a shower and get our kids up for school. But if I sleep till like 5:15 or 5:30, there's no way I have time to read the couple of pages. So that's why I often am pushing it to get up at 5. So I just think it's like we're not perfect at that either, but like I can feel myself, kind of getting in ruts where I'm like on auto drive and I'm just doing the bare minimum for our business to get by. And then I'm like, what am I doing? Like all this opportunity is right here in front of me. And I'm just not being lazy, but I'm not being eager and I'm not pushing myself. And I think it's just important for people to like push themselves and I don't know, just realize we have this short time on earth and there's all these opportunities in front of us and we need to be like grabbing them and taking control of ourselves and bettering ourselves. And
a good tool for that is the motivational talks on like YouTube.
Oh yeah. I haven't listened to those in a long time.
When I get in a little rut and I'll just get on and even Steve Harvey, them guys just, they'll be putting it on you like if I'm working out or whatever I'm doing. If I got time to listen to some of that motivational stuff on the way to work, it always pumps me up, helps me get out of a rut. So that's a tool you could use to. And
I found a lot, like for years of my life, and I'm not kidding, for probably 15 years, I've had different friends or trainers at a gym or different people in my life recommend that I meditate. And I'm like, I am too high strung for meditation. Like I'm not going to be able to calm down. Like that's not how I function. And just in the last probably year, my friend told me about an app called Insight Timer. So it's like 5 or 10 minute guided meditation. And I still don't have, or I don't make time to do that every day. So what I'll do is I'll turn it on when I go to bed and I like fall asleep to it. But at least until I fall asleep for 5 or 10 minutes, I'm meditating and my mind is in that guided meditation, So I'm laying down and I'm not even speaking stuff out loud. I'm doing it all in my head, but I do think it's good for the brain and the mind. And like, if you have trouble sleeping, which I don't, I like can go to sleep right away. I go hard all day and then at night I go to sleep. But I think it would help people fall asleep because it is relaxing and it really lets you just like your whole body relax and your mind just like open up and think through things, and it's encouraging and motivational. And I just think it's a great way to end your day.
Right.
And that's a self-improvement thing for me. So that's a way that I better myself and better my mind by doing that. But I just think people are really missing out on a lot of things that we have, like life has to offer, or, by just not focusing on improving ourselves, because we all continually can do better.
And the phones are bad, but we have all the information we could ever want at our fingertips.
Right.
There's no reason not to do something you want. If you just are passionate about it, get on the internet. You probably already have, whether it be whatever, riding BMX bikes, anything.
Yeah.
And there's so much information now that can help you get into that career or that path that you want to take to
and learn the
do
unknowns.
Something fun.
I look up the craziest stuff on Google and TikTok, like about business or different business ideas that I come up with, like how much money does this make? How would you go? What's the first step in starting this kind of crazy business that I know nothing about? Or how much does equipment cost for a laundromat? Just like getting ideas for different businesses that we've looked into. You can find it all. I mean, you can find at least a good idea. So it's pretty cool. Even like cooking, like how much better of a cook I am, like, cause I'll look up recipes. I've learned wasn't taught to cook by any family members growing up. So like I've had to self-teach myself, which is fine, but it's so much is at our fingertips with the internet that I can make all kinds of awesome meals, and it's fulfilling, and it makes me a better wife and mother to provide these great meals for my family. And it's because it's easy. I don't even have to have a recipe book. I can Google, I have chicken breast and these veggies. What can I make that's something different, Pretty cool.
Could you imagine if I cooked a meal?
You did once. Listen, I got to tell a story. Jesse doesn't ever cook, and that's fine. I'm fine. I think I would feel like threatened. Like I like being the woman of the house. Like I like taking care of all the stuff. So one time years ago before Ethan was born, so at least 5 or 6 years ago, I had the stomach flu, like the bad flu, like the flu that lasts 6 days straight. And I was dying. It was so bad. I've never been so sick in my life, or I have, but it was bad. So I was pretty much in our bedroom for like 4 or 5 days straight. And Jesse would just bring me some fluids. Like I could not eat. I was just dying. I told him to stay away from me, and he did. So I finally, on like a Saturday, I'm like, I think I can climb out of this bed and I think I need to try to eat. And he was like, I'm going to cook for you. I'll make you something. I can't believe that this is what you chose. And I'm like, are you sure? Like, what can you make? And he said, it's something I learned to make in prison. And I'm like,
It was that prison pie, baby.
I was like, I don't know that coming off the stomach flu, the week long, I should eat something that you learned to make in prison with limited resources. And he's like, oh, no, this is prison delight. And I was like,
I was going to make it with the pickle pieces, the nachos,
No,
cold
no, it was
nachos.
like
You know what time it is?
Tuna fish, rice. What else?
That was
in
mackerel, baby. That was mackerel.
It was so bad. He like put all these seasoning salts in there.
Yeah.
Oh, and I mean, I don't even think I tried. I think I could smell it, and I was like, that is not the first meal for a week of not eating.
I think that prison recipe calls for the noodles from the ramen noodles.
Yeah. That's what you made.
Being crushed up, and then a bag of chips crushed up. They're all mixed together.
Oh.
Add some hot water, and you make a burrito out of it, and the chips swell up.
God.
And I'd put pickle pieces and some salami.
Oh, I'm about to puke thinking about it.
Yeah, when I was in prison, this shit was a delicacy.
Yeah, that's what you said. Like, you were really proud about it, and I felt bad being like,
we would make a cold
serious?
nacho, and that was like a party. You know, you had your cold nacho for the weekend. I got home. I'd been home 4-5 years and tried that shit. She's right.
It's disgusting.
It was disgusting.
Yeah, it was bad. I think that's the only thing you've ever cooked.
That was it.
I mean, I'm really thinking, I don't think.
My part, and I'm not trying to be like whatever it is where the men are.
Like male chauvinist or whatever.
Yeah. My part is making sure that we have the food, make the meal.
Yeah,
Your part is to make the meal.
Yeah, and I think that that's a thing too, that was something I had to do, like, for myself, because I was always so independent. Like, I completely paid for my whole life myself since I was very young. I always worked my own jobs, paid for my own car when I was 16, you know, all that kind of stuff. In college, paid my way through. I worked 3 jobs, so I'm independent for sure. And it's hard to like give in, which we both work for our business, but Jesse's out there working physically so hard and like with his skill set that like I couldn't do this by myself because I'm not going to go run a tractor, obviously. So to let someone be a provider, but I think that's important about the relationship stuff. Like my friends and I talk about this. It's crazy how much better your relationship gets when I'm not saying you have to like just quit your job and be a full-time stay-at-home mom or anything like that. And I'm not that. But when you let a man be a man and like be a provider and let them lead, and I'm not saying that means that I don't have an opinion. Jesse and I talk about everything, but I do value his opinion. And when push comes to shove, I try and not always do good at it to like say, okay, if that's completely how you feel about this topic, I'm going to back off. And I don't always do that lightly. Sometimes we fight about it for a week first. But there is like power in that in our relationship. And then like me taking on that caregiver role where you don't have to worry, you know that everything you possibly need food-wise is stocked. Your favorite coffee, your tea's made, your laundry's done. Like he doesn't have to worry about that stuff so he can focus on work. It really does make our relationship better and it makes our business better. It makes our home life better because we're not butting heads both trying to like take on the same roles.
Right.
And I know that's not easy. It wasn't easy for me. It took years of me not wanting to like give in to that and feel proud about being able to provide you because it seems so like stupid, like, oh, I made the tea and I do your laundry, but that is a valuable thing for you.
Oh yeah, it is.
So for you to not have to worry about any of that stuff, so I don't know. It's just, I feel stupid trying to explain
My
this
days
because
would not be the same. I would be not be the same person without the things you do.
And I wouldn't be. So I don't think I would be as good of a wife if I was married to someone who didn't take on such a good role of being a provider and the man of the house. You're a good role to the boys and you're loyal to me and you are supportive of me. And even though sometimes I have to remind you to tell me you appreciate the things I do, I know he does and vice versa, you know? And I just think that stuff, that's another like self-improvement thing. That's not like we're like this perfect couple that came together and knew our role. Like that took a lot of growing together and figuring that out. And I'm so grateful that we both put in the effort there.
And just because Lesa has the role of the homekeeper, just so you know, when we got together, she had probably 1,000 times more than I had in savings.
Yeah, literally more than
Like,
that.
luckily one of
Like
us had made
20,000
some
times
smart,
more.
yeah, luckily somebody in the relationship had made some smart financial decisions
And that
throughout
goes
their
to
life.
show. So even though you, as the man, the provider, the leader, I say all that, you learned from me in the beginning. You allowed me to show you a way of saving your money and putting money in the right places and making money work for you, and like where you didn't know those things. So you were open to like learning that and then applying it to us.
I don't know if you know this, but I tried my damnedest to make sure that every amount of money, all the amount of money you had in savings when we got together, you always had, and it never went below what you had. And then
It
now,
never did.
obviously, it's
Well, thank you.
much
Because
higher.
it never did.
But I didn't want her to think I was just, because she'd been working hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always worked hard. But yeah, but so that's the thing. That's the flip side of everything I'm saying is like initially our roles were
Different.
gray. Yeah, because we were young.
'Cause I was fucking broke.
And he was broke. He was trying to rebuild his life. I just
I'm like,
was
you
home.
got how much in savings?
I know because
You got a savings?
Yeah, you were so blown away when you found that Honda Shadow motorcycle you wanted to get, and you're like,
Yes.
oh, it's like what was it, like $1,500
It was
bucks.
like $1,300, and she's like, "Oh, I'll pay for it."
I was like,
I'm
oh, just write a check and then you can pay me back over the next 2 weeks when you get paid. And you were like, you've got that much in your account? I was like, no, like in my savings, I've got X amount.
She
And you were
clearly
like,
did not know my co-signing history.
No. And I had never co-signed for Jesse on anything.
No.
But I was like, yeah, I know you'll pay me back. I know you make money, so just take it out of my account. And he paid it back, and I put it back in savings. It was no big deal. But he was like, that's so awesome that you can just have money whenever you want. I'm like, yeah, that's why you save it up.
I had never even thought about saving the shit. I thought you were supposed to make it and spend it immediately that week. I always thought that if I got paid on Friday, I had to spread that out until the next Friday.
And then you get down to zero and start over.
Yeah, like I've got 1,300 to last me 7 days. So that means each day gets
Again,
190.
growth and self-development. Jesse's not like that at all. He's
$5.
not. He'll always think long and hard about purchases. Talk to me about all of them. He never just blows our money. He's always like, ooh, I want this, but should we put it into this instead, or into the business, or
I've gotten a
into
lot
investment
wiser.
accounts? And oh yeah, for sure. Which
Yeah.
is just, that's, I mean, people get stuck in their ways and don't want to grow and just always think that everything that we think is right. And like, that's so stupid, because there's always more to learn about life and responsibility and money and marriage and relationships and business. So like, until the day you die, I think people are still learning new things that better themselves. So
Right. We know so much more now about everything than we did 10 years ago. And hopefully in 10 years, we know just as much more.
yeah.
And I think that is the cycle of life.
Yeah.
So
You learn and then
that's
you
how
pass
you become
it on
wise.
and you repeat the cycle.
Right. While you were saying all that really good stuff, whatever you said made me think about my love language being touch. And when Lisa gets mad at me, she won't let me like touch her. Like if I'm sleeping, my body's got to be like hers. Look, so you've all
It's not
had
that I won't let you. It's I'm not interested in having you like hug on me after you were mean to me.
you've all had a dog before, right? And I don't know if like the dog comes over and cuddles, it kind of like pushes up against you and then like slides down. Well, that's me in bed. And whenever I piss her off, she won't let me cuddle.
I'm even hanging off the edge of the bed.
And dude,
Holding
it
on
drive
for
me
you.
fucking nuts. I'll sit over there and pow. I'll turn over. She knows what she's doing. I'll get my little toe down there. And I'll just get a little touch on her toe.
Yeah. Well, my love language, and if you don't know your love language, even though it sounds cheesy, it actually is really good to know your own to figure out what that is, because there's like 5 main ones, and then your partner's. And it's still easy to forget them and not pay attention to those. But like mine is acts of service. And the struggle with that is that Jesse works his butt off for us always. And I do appreciate that. But so he's like, how is that not an act of service? I'm like working my butt off for 12
Working
hours
my
a day.
ass off, girl. I can't act no
for
more.
me, the act of service is like, hey, I need you to help me hang this picture.
She's like, hey,
Please,
can you
please.
remodel the bathroom?
No.
I'm like, yeah, after my 16-hour day.
No, it's simple tasks that I would appreciate, someone helping me with, and I usually end up just doing it myself. But to me, it's just him not caring, because that's how I feel, if I have to ask 30 times to help me hang up something I can't lift by myself or whatever, little things like that. And so it's hard though sometimes to understand someone else's love language, because to him he's like, I don't know why you care that much about this little task. Like, who cares? But to me it matters. And then to him, I like physical touch also, but not in a way, like, I don't think about it that often. So Jesse, like, if I don't give him any physical affection, like even just a hug, putting my arm on his and stuff, like, I don't just think about doing that. And when I'm busy doing stuff in the house, but to him, it's like, I'm not showing love. So it's just interesting. And I think it's important to learn that about people you're dating or married, because when you do lean into those things, it makes the relationship run smoother, because you're both feeling love in the way that you naturally receive it.
Right.
But yeah, it's funny. We've kind of played this game with, not a game with that, but like, it's a difficult
It
thing
ain't no
to
damn
handle.
game. All of a sudden, she won't let me do no cuddle.
Because he's
And,
being a bully.
yeah, she'll shut me
you get.
down.
Only when it's truly.
I feel her energy, so whenever I'm touching her, I get like this strong energy from her. And she knows that. She can feel it too. She's getting energy from me. But whenever she just lets my big toe touch her, I'm just not getting enough.
Don't be a bully. And
Right.
you can cuddle up like a dog all you want.
And speaking of her love language with the acts of kindness, she doesn't.
Acts of service.
Service.
You don't even know what it is. I say it all the time.
Acts of kindness. She's kind. I know that. But acts of service. So this goes back to the story I just told about my buddy Dirty Shane. I've offered her 100 times.
Yeah.
Get a maid. Get nanny.
Pay someone to do the things you want me to do
whatever
for
it
you.
is that you need done. Pay. Get it done. Call in the phone book and do it. And she won't do it because she wants me to do it. It's different.
It is different. Well, it's funny too. Like, that's how I give love. So I'm always running around giving acts of service to you and the kids, like doing everything for them. And it makes me happy to do that. And Jesse jokingly said once, like, oh, this whole time I thought you meant you felt loved by giving all these acts of service out. That's why I don't ever do the things you ask. I thought you were just like doing it yourself. I'm
Yeah,
like,
I thought
I'm
she
gonna
said
punch you in
her
the
love
face.
language is acts of service. And I'm like, well, yeah.
Keep doing the
Service away, baby.
Yeah. No, that's not what it was. But those are, so even, okay, so talking about personal growth and development, that's the kind of stuff that sounds lame. I know that, but it's important to identify things in yourself that make you a better person, not just in marriage, but even in work. So like I will think like, oh, I know so much about the business work I do, on the computers and accounting stuff. And I don't know a lot. I'm always doubting myself, but I learn as I go. But it's always so great for me when I do sit down with our accountant and talk about stuff and he'll teach me something. And I'm like, oh, like that all comes together. And now I can
Right.
skip over these long steps I've been taking to get that done, because there's a shortcut that I just didn't realize. So it's so good to talk to other people and like find out more about how you make your life easier in your job, and even hiring an attorney to do some work for us that really hasn't cost that much at all. It can seem so intimidating to hire professionals to help with stuff, but really, if you know exactly what you need or a roundabout idea, it ends up not being that expensive. Like, our attorney's going to do some work for me on the corporate stuff, and it won't cost but a few $100, and it's stuff I've been stressing out over. So it's like, why didn't I just call him and have him?
Right.
That's his specialty. That's what he does. And then he's teaching me things on how to continue that on down the road, where I don't get like where I need to fix it. It's just like, oh, and then now every year do this. Oh, okay, great. Like, there's just so much to learn, and it's just easy to get stuck in your ways and think that, we're all so smart and perfect, and we're not. So you got to be willing to adjust the way you do things.
Adapt and grow.
Like in excavation, don't you? I'm sure when you talk to other contractors or even in different trades and you learn stuff, they're like, oh, like that, you can apply it to your trade, or even
For
doing
sure.
business, like things that you do with, like talking about bidding jobs, or I don't know, just whatever.
And even tools. Like, there's so many new tools coming out to make the project go smoother or to make the task easier.
Yeah.
Like putting down staples in the blanket. You're putting down thousands of staples, and they've got these guns that you can use. Just looking around and
Oh, yeah.
seeing
Didn't you guys used to have to like stab each staple with like a stick?
We started out putting them in with our thumbs.
Ooh.
Remember, my thumb would be bleeding.
Yeah.
Putting in all these staples. And then finally I ordered these sticks with magnets on them where the staple would go and you jam it in there.
But now there's guns, so you can just shoot it down.
And now there's guns where you just click, like
That's
bang it
nice.
in there. But just learning the tools to make the job easier. So stuff like that. But all right, we got a lot to do for Legoland.
Yeah.
We got a lot of planning to do. So till next week, guys, we'll see you. Reckless Success. Follow us on Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Reckless Success. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks. All right, guys, we're going to wrap up. You can follow us on TikTok and YouTube at reckless.success. Instagram at reckless success. We're on Spotify and all major podcast services. Hit that subscribe button, please. For more information on May Excavating, check out our website or TikTok. That's a wrap. Thanks.